you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm trying to get this so that I can get the chat off of my laptop because I can't see it on there. So we're going to change this around a little bit, see if we can get this to work. So you'll have to give me just a minute or so to make sure I can get everything set up, if in fact it'll do it. I sure hope it will. Here we are. Looks like we're on the live stream now. It's finally come up. Yes, it looks good. Okay. So as I was telling you the last couple of times, YouTube's changed some things around. I don't know why they can't just leave things the same, but they changed the format around quite a bit, and I ended up having to try to read the chat off of there, and I just can't do it. And I don't know if anybody else is doing their live streams on their phones like I have to do around here. But this is definitely not a better setting here. It used to be that the chat would come up as I look at the screen on the right side or the left. I really don't remember now. I think it was the right side though, and I could read it because it was kind of in a box. But now it's just splattered all across the screen, and I can't see any of that. So hello everyone. I've got my laptop over here, so I'll be watching that to try to let you all get involved a little bit more here. Let me move this thing out of the way. Just bring this over just another little bit. There we are. Okay. Today's the 26th of October, 2023, as you all know. And I don't have to tell you that the world is definitely not a better place. You know, as you all probably recall, you know, I take in a lot of information from a lot of different places. I've studied a lot of different things. Uh, you know, I've studied Judaism, I've studied Islam, uh, Hinduism, some other things, certainly Christianity, and of course my experiences and my education in the world. You know, the politics, the military, law, uh, all of that. It's when I look back on all the things I've done, I'm actually quite amazed that I've actually done as much as I have, and yet I still have so little to show for it. That's the funny part. Uh, every little bit of knowledge and understanding and experience and remuneration for it when that was called for uh, has not come easy to me. I'm not the brightest uh, light in the room or the sharpest knife in the drawer. Even in school, a lot of people, you know, when they're in school, it just comes easy. I had to work at it, and it's the same today. So I just thought I'd let you all know I don't have a. Oh, somebody's already on here saying I'm a fraud. Already. Hey, do I have any? Let's see. Hold on a second. See if I have any mods on here. I don't know if I do. Because in order to get rid of people like this, oh yes, I have Logan's warning. I have studied Islam. Oh yes, I have. Oh yes, I have. Yeah, it was part of my I guess you could say interest study, but it was also part of my formal training. Okay, and I don't have to answer to you. All right, that's not important. But I am going to try to get rid of you if I can figure out a way to do this here. You're calling me all kinds of names. Oh, that's just terrible of you. Okay, hold on here. Okay, you're gone, Logan. It's not that I mind criticism. That's not the issue. What I don't like is uh, one-liner pejoratives and those types of things, especially when you don't know a damn thing about me. Actually, you don't. Okay. Hopefully that his stuff will disappear or her stuff, whoever that is. I'm not sure why this isn't getting rid of you. I'll keep trying here. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. If I had a mod on here, they could do this, but for some reason or other, it's not letting me get rid of him or her. No, I don't discuss. I choose my own things on here, everybody, okay? I choose what I'm going to do. And if you've got something to say, Logan's Warning, you start your own YouTube channel and invite us over to take a look, okay? And then I might partake. But here, nah, I don't think so. I don't think so. Boy, this is aggravating that I can't get this thing to cooperate. Yeah, let's see. Okay. Sorry that's taking so long. Anybody on here want to be a mod? I usually get some pretty good moderators that come on. Of course, Jesse um, and from BP Earthwatch. I think a lot of them got tired of having to get rid of all my, constantly having people like this on here that are trying to stop what we're talking about. I don't see anybody saying they want to be a mod, and I don't blame you. It's a pain in the ass job. All right, well, we'll just keep going. I may have thrown him off. Maybe I got lucky. Personally blocked Logan. Thank you, Jackie Q. I appreciate it. All right, well, let's just get on into the subject matter. Not that there is any. I don't have to explain myself to you. If you don't like what I have to say, if you don't like my take on things, what the hell are you doing here? All right. If you're a provocateur, if you're an IC member, if you're a member of some extremist group, and you want to argue, well, we're not going to do it on chat, okay? I'll take questions, but we're not going to do a dissertation here. Maybe I've kind of done those before, but they're in series, like you'll see in the playlists, right? But we're not gonna get into a debate here, okay? That's not the purpose of this. Again, if you wanna put forth your ideas or whatever, go start a YouTube channel, okay? All right, Logan's Run or whatever your name is, and everybody else in that matter. Okay, so let's get into this and let's talk about a few things. And I'm going to try to pay a lot of attention to the chat this time. Okay, so if you see me doing that, I don't mean to be rude and not looking at the camera, but I want to try to find if there's something on here that somebody really wants to talk about. Why did I call this escalation? Well, I think it's pretty obvious, right? Everything is escalating. I mean, we've got these wars starting. Of course, the one in Ukraine that keeps grinding on, and I have a lot of questions about that whole thing. A lot of questions about it. I have from the very beginning, and there's just some things that don't make sense about the Ukraine war, the Russian military, special military operation, and all that. But there are a lot of people out there talking about it, as I talked to you before about these folks, Brian Berletic of the New Atlas, Scott Ritter, the Duran, Alex Christoforou, Alexander Makuris. Then there are other types of places that you can go, Military Summary Channel. This is all on YouTube. And those types of things. So, as I said before, I've kind of moved away from some of that, although I'll take some questions about it here tonight if you like. Then we've got that situation that started over in Israel and the whole mess with Gaza and all of that, and the really ridiculous buildup of U.S. and other forces in the Eastern Mediterranean. Yeah, Douglas McGregor. Thank you. That he's an important one. Douglas McGregor, Colonel Douglas McGregor. Uh, I think you all know where I stand on all that, and the fact of the matter is, uh, and I'll just say it this way: it's this problem between, I'm going to say, Jews and Islam. Uh, it seems to be that's kind of where the big rub is in the world, more so than almost anything else that we can think of. And I've talked about it quite a bit before. The one thing that I haven't pressed, and I will now, is if you have studied the Talmud, if you know about the Talmud. First of all, in the Torah, it talks about the cherem, and I've given some talks about that, which is the total genocide of other peoples by the Israelites. That really did happen, and there are different reasons why it did. I've never really bought into it, despite what the scriptures say, 100%. I think there's some problems with it politically and morally. And they'll say, well, God said to do it. Well, that's their God. I mean, I could say I have a God that tells me to go out and kill people, and you're going are you going to accept it? No, I think you have to look at it from a 60,000 foot view and be very cautious. And that's why I say the things I do. I do understand that there were very, as I mentioned the other night in several other videos, that these were really historically. I think we can even prove it archaeologically. They were just as bad as the Mayans and these people on the American continent, on the in the New World, so to speak. Uh, that they did worship other gods, and those gods went along with really horrible things, human sacrifice, child sacrifice, and I don't want to get into a whole lot of detail on that because it can cause the algorithm to get upset, but they're really wicked things. And of course the excuse was, if you didn't clean the land out of those people, that then the Israelites would assimilate their false beliefs, their false gods, and their immoral actions. That's not, even if that's true, even if that's all true, that's not the situation in Gaza in the state of Israel today. Uh, they're actually Abrahamic religions, both of them. And in fact, as I mentioned the other night, the state of Israel is less moral in its overall, if you were to take a look at it overall, and I don't want to specifically state those again tonight, because if I do, it kind of, I've said it too many times on here, but the Lima Golf Bravo thing, the situation with stealing land, and all of that. Okay, they can't use the Torah to justify what they're doing, because they aren't practicing Torah as a nation, as a theocracy. So all their statements that the Torah says they can do this, and that the land's theirs, and et cetera, it's all void, null and void, because they are not the theocracy of Israel. Sorry, they aren't. All right. There are also sects of Jews, real Jews, who disagree with the political situation there in Israel, meaning, the Jews don't go along with the type of Jews that are in Israel. A lot of those people, for instance, that are there, were told to come over and they'd be given property. Well, what that means is that that property was taken in a lot of cases, especially in the West Bank area and in some places now in Gaza, actually throughout the country there, used to, say that, our house belonged to us. Well, they came in and said, you got to leave because this is ours now. And I told you about the Mormons doing that in Missouri and how they got spanked for it. Okay. So it's not surprising that there's a problem there. But at any rate, the bottom line is that the excuses that the people are using to enact cherem, that's destruction, total destruction of your enemy, based upon uh, their disagreements with you, and even their stand against you, isn't enough to justify it like it was in the Old Testament. Okay, it isn't. And Netanyahu's been using that, and he's a demon liar, murderer, thief, criminal, corrupt politician. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people like that in there, in that entire governmental structure, and even in the people themselves. I came down on a lot of Jewish folks in the last couple of weeks, not because I support Hamas. What they did was absolutely horrific and wrong. I understand how the people of Gaza feel, but to go out and murder unarmed people, and especially women and children, is unforgivable. Does that mean that you turn around and then you destroy all the innocents in Gaza? And yes, there are innocents in Gaza. Most of them are innocent. They're subject to that government that's there, just like you're subject to yours. And as I explained the other night, should our American people take a fall and be murdered and slaughtered because of what our government did in, say, Iraq or Libya, Syria? You get the point. So this ethnic cleansing that Israel is doing to the Palestinians is evil and it's wrong. And I don't care who you are. I even came out against a colleague, a military colleague, here the other day. I had to call him out and I said, sir, you really don't know. You either don't know what you're talking about historically, or you've just got this bloodlust that has been fomenting amongst these people for many, many years. Now, some Jews will say, and I know I'm talking a lot here, but some Jews will say, "Well, no, we lived in peace with the Muslims and the Christians for years." Well, that's kind of true, and it's kind of not. And I'm going to go back to the Talmud. The Talmud says you can kill Christians. You can treat them as beasts. As a matter of fact, it says that you can treat all of mankind as a beast for your enrichment and your pleasure. The Talmud basically says that. I'm really putting it all down into a nutshell, but it really does say that, and a lot of other horrible things. And I've told you that when the Talmud happened, then Islam came along at around 550, 600 AD, and that and some people say, well, no, it goes back to Abraham. Well, I understand that, but I'm talking about the actual institutionalized religion. Okay, it got down to the point where the Islam, and this is probably where Logan got all upset because I've said this before, but it's a historical fact. You can even see it in the literature. They took the parts of the Talmud, not even necessarily the Torah. They took parts of the Talmud and parts of the Christian New Testament, and they mingled them together. Okay, and in that process, you came out with the situation in the Quran and in its supporting commentaries, that it's okay to kill Christians and it's okay to kill Jews. Okay, now there are some other passages about the people of the book and that kind of thing, but the bottom line is, and this is what I said in my last presentation, I've really pushed it on X. All you have to do is understand that in the Noahide laws that the Jews push, and they want to make required belief and submission throughout the whole world. One of the problems on that, the biggest one, is if you worship a false deity, and the false deity to the Jews is anybody but theirs, and they can execute you for it. Okay, in other words, if you don't bend to their belief, they can kill you, and it says so right in the Noahide law. Okay. It's not in the Torah. The Jews didn't expect to as a matter of fact, they weren't a people, I should say the Israelites. The Israelites weren't a people to go out and get converts. It wasn't something that they did. Okay, it would happen, but it wasn't something they did. Okay, they lived their own religion. But when the Talmud came along, and these things, there were these disagreements. The Talmudic rabbis really expanded on this stuff. And for instance, in Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, where it talks about the beasts of the field, they consider you to be those beasts of the field. They don't talk about that, but that's what they say. Okay? The goyim. All right? So you aren't human, so they can kill you, they can do anything they want to. They can make slaves of you, and it's okay. This is all explained in the Talmud. Now, there are good things in the Talmud, too, about how to live your life righteously and all that, but when you really dig down into it, you get these other things, and most people that have studied it are aware of it. Okay, so the Jewish religion in the basic bottom line, even though in the old Israelite religion they did it on their own and they knew their God would someday take control of everything, they weren't out there demanding everybody believe in it. As a matter of fact, quite the opposite. And the high priest would ask God to bless the other nations of the world at least once a year in the temple on Yom Kippur. He would ask a blessing upon the 70 nations. Now they'll concentrate on that today. Oh, we're loving and all of that, but in the long run, when you get down to it, even the good Orthodox Jews who have been standing up against the political state of Israel still have the Talmud. And I've talked to some of them about this, and they still go along with some of this really rough stuff. They say, but God will do it. Well, okay, have God do your dirty work for you, right? Well, let's switch over to Islam for a little Logan there who was wetting his pants and defecating in his diaper. Islam does the same thing. It has a situation in there where if you don't convert, they can execute you. And I think everybody knows that. So what's really the difference between the tyranny of the type of Judaism I've talked about and the type of Islam that I've talked about? Very little. Okay, very little, except that Judaism doesn't accept Muhammad as a prophet, and Islam doesn't accept. Well, they accept Moses. They just say that they're beyond that now with Muhammad. Muhammad is the only prophet. But regardless, it's about no tolerance, no understanding, no allowing another person to go on their own spiritual journey without them stepping on you and threatening your life and your property and everything else. That's just the bottom line. That's the way it is. Christians haven't fared much better. I told you about the situation with the early Christians who were actually Messianic Jews, of course, but they were involved in this thing. It's in my book of this transition from the old Israelite religion to some extent into this Christianity thing. And it was primarily done by Paul later, but and Philo of Alexandria that were really involved in that shift. But earlier on, I told you that if they heard a Roman soldier, for instance, talking about Torah, they would forcefully circumcise him, which the Romans considered to be castration. And that's where the idea of the eunuchs, that we shouldn't have sex and all that came from in Christianity, because people make themselves eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven's sake. It didn't mean that you cut off your organs. It means you get circumcised. That's what it meant. But that's another issue as well. But the point is, they would forcefully do these things to Roman soldiers, and if they resisted, they kill them, or anybody else for that matter. Okay. Then there was the situation with the situation with the rabbis when they did the Council of Yavna, and that led on further into the Talmud later. That was kind of Rome taking over to make Judaism, because of what they had done to some of their soldiers, early Christianity, make it more palatable to the Roman Empire so that it could coexist with them. So all of these things happened in early Christianity. They even killed Hypatia. I told you about that. There were a group of Christians, just like you see happening in some parts of the world today, especially in the Islamic world, where they'll kill people for various things they consider to be a violation of their religious code. Hypatia was one of those. She was a beautiful woman. She was the librarian over the Library of Alexandria, where they kept all these wonderful books and texts and codices and papyri and scrolls and all that. She was a scientist, and she wouldn't go along with the basically, I'm giving you a short version here, wouldn't go along with the Christian notion of things. So a group of them killed her she was walking home one day, and they took seashells and they cut her flesh off while she was still alive. This is what really killed her. And then they sent these pieces of her all around the world. Well, Christians want to forget about things like that. We don't do stuff like that. Oh, yeah, you did. Go back to the Inquisition. So, in other words, we have this bloodlust that's been going on amongst the Abrahamic religions for a millennia. There have been times when they've gotten together, as the Jews say, these Orthodox Jews, we've lived in peace with our Christian and Islamic brothers for years. Yeah, but there are those undercurrents as well, and they are a problem. And frankly, I find it totally disgusting. It's almost enough to make me become a devoted traditional Christian, because I do believe in the two things that I've talked about for so long. Love the Lord thy God, and that doesn't mean that you go out and do things that are immoral, even if he tells you. And I gave you some examples of that the other night, and I'm going to give you another one. Moses, when God said he was going to destroy Israel because they fell away from him, what did Moses do? He didn't say, yeah, yeah. No, he said, no, 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 no. Wait a minute. Wait a minute, God. You got to rethink this. All right. He argued with God. He actually said, no, you made a promise and you've got to stick to it. So Moses was willing to debate God, and God repented and didn't destroy Israel. They destroyed some of the people that were there. I'm not going to get into the history of who those people were that made the golden calf and all that business. That's not important right now. But the point is, Moses said no, according to the literature, right? Well, there was another time that happened. That was with Abraham, when Abraham found out that God was going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, and he worked from 50 down to 10, right? And of course, they couldn't even find 10 there. But you see what I'm saying, all right? So just because God tells you to do something, you still have a right. If you think it's God telling you this, but anytime he's telling you to take somebody's life, you got to ask yourself a question. Especially women and children, you got to ask yourself a question. And a lot of these religious fanatics won't do it. They'll just go do it. And I could tell you some other stories about that, but I won't. Not tonight. I've had firsthand contact with these types of people. So God says in other scriptures in the Bible, "Let us reason together." You won't find that in the Quran, but in the Bible, in the Old Testament, the Tanakh, you'll see where God says, "Well, okay, let's sit down and talk about this." And he talked to Moses face to face, according to the literature, and he talked to Abraham face to face, according to the literature. All right. So religious fanaticism and vengeance is destroying the entire Western world, including Western Asia. That's what's happening today. All right. That was a long introduction, but that's the basis for what we're seeing and a lot of what's happening. Not in Ukraine, of course, that's a whole different situation, although I do believe that there's something about the New Jerusalem and the greater Israel that's at play here for reasons of some other things that I knew about from the 1850s, and also from, like I said, the purposes of the Rothschilds and the Balfour Declaration and all that, making Israel. Israel is not a redivivus of ancient Israel and its customs and religion. It is not. It is not. And anybody who stands here and says, God gave us this land thousands of years ago, he didn't give it to you guys. Sorry. You don't even know your genealogies anymore, because during the Babylonian captivity you lost all that, and I've talked about it. And I'm talking to the Jews now. If you want to treat people like animals, and if you want to do genocides, you're no better than what the Germans did to you in World War II, or what you say he did, what they did. You got put into pogroms and ghettos and concentration camps, and now you turn around and do the same thing because these people objected to you throwing them out of their homes and killing them. Now, I still don't justify the Palestinians, Hamas, whoever, coming and killing unarmed, innocent men, women, and children in Israel. I don't, or anywhere else in the world. And if you come around my house and or my people, and you try to cut off our heads or do something, you're going to get your ass shot. All right? Because we carry guns. All right? And we know how to use them. And I don't mean I'm talking about the people in much of the United States. Now, what happened here the other night up in Maine, I've looked at this thing on several levels, and I'm not even sure that the character that's wielding the gun in the photograph is the same guy that we're seeing in the pictures um, that the media is putting out. Other than those two, I look at that, and then there's some questions about where the weapon came from and all kinds of other things. It definitely, when I listened to if this particular video that I saw was part of the shooting, that was not a semi-automatic rifle that was shooting. That was a selective fire rifle. Some people said no, it's echoing off the buildings, or maybe there's a second shooter. Second shooter maybe, but what I know a difference between an echo off a building and three-shot bursts. Okay, that was a selective fire weapon. Where did he get that, or did he have it modified, or was it that the shooter in the picture with the rifle is not even actually the guy they're looking for? This Robert Card guy might be, that might be all nonsense. We know how the FBI and the CIA set these things up, so who knows what the real truth is? And I'm not saying I know, but I'm saying I already see some issues about this whole deal. And it came at such an interesting time. The problem is we've introduced, as most of you know, we've introduced so many intruders into our country, refugees they want to call them at the White House, and legal immigrants and all this kind of stuff. Well, without vetting them, you don't know who they are, and there is an army in the United States right now that's going to come after all of us, and it's going to be these people like Hamas ran over into the Israeli settlement there. And I'm not saying the Israeli settlement should have been there. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that that type of activity is going to happen here. It's happened in Europe. It's increasing. This guy in Maine, who knows? He could have been MK Ultra guy. He said he was hearing things when he got his new hearing aid. He was hearing voices in his head. At least that's what his neighbors and his friends were saying. Who knows? The point is, you are the ultimate target of your government and all the other governments, the WEF and all that. They want to take the people down. So they're doing all this chaos and all this destruction with the end result planning to be the eradication of mankind. And I've talked about that for a long time now. So, Logan, you want to be nasty to me and say bad things? You won't be on the channel for a while, but you also are falling victim to the very things I'm talking about here right now. Love God. That doesn't mean you're going to kill people that don't agree with your concept of Him, or even if you think He's telling you to kill somebody. Look out. Better test that spirit real careful, because the parameters for killing somebody aren't the karem of the Torah and Joshua, for instance, the book of Joshua. They're not. It's not, and they're very specific even there under what circumstances. Okay. I don't know if we're at the end of days or not. They thought they were at the end of days back in the destruction of the Second Temple. If you read my book, The Crimson Thread, and if you study Dr. Robert Eisenman's works and all that, you'll know they thought that Rome was going to be defeated and that they were going to be set free any time now. And it's been 2,000 years. What's really going on? I'm not going to tell you what's going on because I don't know that I know, but I do know that it's not like we've been told. It's not like we've been preached to in church, and I've talked about that for a long time. Okay, let's see. Yeah, Lawrence, yeah, you're right. Something's off on the shooting, but there's always something off. I mean, we just had this too many times. We had where Pam Geller was in Texas, Garland, Texas. She was down there. She's Jewish. She was down there with this guy. I forget his name right now, but I think he's from the Netherlands, and he was talking about, politics and so there was a thing, and the FBI helped these Islamic terrorists to come up there to kill Pam and this guy and anybody else they could get, and the FBI got caught red-handed, and then of course it all goes away. They just let it go. The same thing happened with the bombing of the World Trade Centers in 1993, right? Same kind of thing. FBI was in there, pulling the strings and stuff, so they could set up these false flags, and there's no question they do it. I've actually been involved in situations where I saw them do similar things. Okay, I'll just put firsthand. All right. So yeah, there's something off about this. Roy, have you heard of Europa: The Final Battle? I'm not sure I know what you're talking about there, Paul Kittle, but yeah, the nanothermite explosives, Rolf Steiner, and 9/11. I know. One of the BYU professors, John, forget his last name now, but he did a lot of the tests. And we've never seen buildings come down like that before. And then of course there's Building 7. Yep, you're right. Like I said, we are the target. We are the target. And then in the last 3 years, they've been putting stuff into your bodies to change you. It's unbelievable how far this has gone. Janine Conguiliere, I think that I'm butchering your name, Janine, but you're right. We all get discouraged and frustrated these days. We are only human in our flesh and doing our best. That's right. That's why I say prep, pray, stay out of the way. Look, as hard as I try, and my reach isn't very good, and I see these Tucker Carlson has been doing some great stuff. People say, "Oh, he's CIA, well, whatever." He's still getting the information out there, and he interviewed a lawyer from the United States who is actually representing the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. Its clergy has been arrested in Ukraine, and it's property stolen and all that stuff by Zelensky, and yet we have this. I'm sorry. Okay, we've got this new Speaker of the House apparently, right? Okay, well he's done two things already that are a problem, and the Jews aren't going to like me saying this. At least not the ones that rhyme with lion. The political lionists. All right. He says our wonderful friend Israel. He's going to give them everything they want. And he said another thing that bothers me. He wants to give. He basically got the speakership by saying that he would not support Ukraine anymore. And now it looks like he might be changing his mind. They always do this. Ukraine's no democracy. It's a money laundering criminal enterprise, just like our government, actually, which is probably why they want to help them out. All right. Sorry about that. Okay, let's see. What was this? External. Roy, did you study at Brigham Young University? Being as you're an expert, please, could you speak a little on your understanding of links between Mormonism and Zionism? Yeah, actually, I could. Yeah, I have 3 degrees. I have one from BYU, and I won't tell you where the other two are because I don't need the BYU. I don't care about, but the other institutions, I don't need people calling up and saying, yeah, you need to take away his because he's an extremist and all that, or have them have to deal with that. I just won't do it. But I'll just say I have the credentials to talk about what I do. But as far as BYU and Zionism, yeah, Mormons definitely believe that the current state of Israel and Zionism are God's work. They do, by and large. I mean, there are some exceptions, but as a people and like at BYU, yeah, they do. Yeah, you still have factions that'll be out there and demonstrate against where the church's official stand is, and of course BYU is an official or is an educational institution, university sponsored by the what used to be called the Mormon Church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Now they just call it the Church of Jesus Christ. They're trying to get away from their roots. They even deny their roots sometimes. It's really funny, which is why I don't have anything to do with them anymore. But yeah, they're very close to that. And I don't want to get into it too deep. Of course, the evangelical Christians are there, and they're going to support Israel because they think God put that place in. Well, God let it happen, but I have a feeling like everybody the Book of Revelation talks about the armies gathered around Israel and that they'll be fighting the world, and that then of course Jesus steps on the Mount of Olives and it splits in twain and people can escape. Well, I hate to tell you, but that was the preterist. That actually happened in pretty much that form in 70 AD. with the flight to Pella. So that's really what that whole thing was about when the Christians fled Jerusalem and they fled to Pella and they went by the Mount of Olives. That's all that story. Is it going to happen again? Because I do believe in type and shadow. Well, yeah, maybe, but uh, this current state of Israel, there's only so much I can say. I do not see the evidence in any way, shape, or form that this is a legitimate redivivus of ancient Israel. Period. I see more paganism there, officially sponsored, than I see Torah observance. Yeah, Rick Thompson, I don't doubt that all the truth on that shooting in Maine is going to be covered up. They're going to come up with one patsy that they've probably framed. The guy that they've pegged, this card guy, he apparently, he was in the reserves. He's a weapons instructor. Isn't that funny? And he has a mental problem that he's been treated for. Perfect. First of all, he's a perfect candidate for MK Ultra type manipulation, obviously. And second of all, he can't even defend himself because anything he says now as a mental patient, for all we know, did somebody say they caught him? I know they were around a house here in the last little while, but I don't know if it was his house or somebody that was a person of interest or what. But whoever actually pulled the trigger is probably dead, or a government agent that has now been, taken away and hidden, and then this guy's put up for the patsy. That's how they work. That's how they work, ladies and gentlemen. Jesse, you're here. BP Earthwatch. The Persians are rising. They took down Babylon, and we are seeing God use them again. I believe you're right, Jesse. I believe you're right. They're, as difficult as the Iranian regime, and say that the Syrians and the Lebanese and the Saudi Arabians and even the Palestinians, for that matter, um, as difficult as they are in so many ways, the fact of the matter is they're more righteous than the Western democracies, and even more righteous than the state of Israel as a whole. They absolutely are. And I said that the other night. So it would make sense that like Mene Mene Tekel Upharsin, the Medes and the Persians are going to come and take you away, Babylon, and they're going to take yeah, that's where we are. Sorry, I'm getting all these messages. I should turn those off, but okay. Yeah, Lee Harvey Oswald, another patsy. Anybody that thinks that the one bullet from or the bullets came from the rear, that all you have to do is go out and shoot something, and you'll see that the kinetic energy doesn't act like it did on the Zapruder film. Okay, let me see here. Yeah, Christine Andrews is saying that she's an Army veteran and that America is Babylon, and I think that's true. I mean, who else could? First of all, Israel identifies as the modern day Babylon. It does, and United States, which is, basically its twin. I mean, you can't even look at how Congress. Oh, we got Ron DeSantis even making it so the Palestinians can't demonstrate, in at the college places down there. This is the thing, the hypocrisy of these American politicians. Even DeSantis drives me nuts. Absolutely nuts. Yeah, so I think they're being used again. It's like I said also with, I look at Russia and again, I think Russia is, they're a tough country and they've got some brutes running the place, but they're basically a moral people. They're a Christian people by and large, and they're being used to thrash NATO and the West because we're so decadent and evil. Yeah, I agree. All right, let's let's see what we got here. Maximus sees not all of us are evil, and yet I'm painting everything with a broad brush now because of course there are exceptions. I've talked to you about the at Torah Jews on X and at Torah Judaism on X. They don't go along with the state of Israel or this lionist situation. Put a Z there, and of course they know what I'm talking about. Um, they recognize that God took them out of that country, and they don't get it back until a certain thing happens, and it hasn't happened yet, and they call it out. So no, I know, and they're not for murder. However, they still teach from the Talmud. Are they picky? Do they avoid the points of this violence? I don't know. Um, I think they do, but it's in there. It's definitely in there. Truth seeker, how do Russia fare? Well, they're faring pretty well. I mean, thermonuclear war will take out everybody, but Russia will definitely come out on top of this whole thing. Yeah, no matter what the West does now, they've shot their wad and they've spent their money and their blood and they're done. They're going to take as many of us out as they can with them, because, like I said, they'd rather destroy everything than lose power, and they're losing power, so they're going to try to destroy everything. And if Russia is the one that helps them to do it, then they will. So we got to keep our eyes and ears on you. How I say, keep your situational awareness on high, right? Yeah, you still got to do that. All right. Yeah, Pocahontas, that's right. These days are so bad. Of course, that's what they said back in 70 AD too. You see how, sometimes this preterism, you gotta take that into consideration. But yeah, I think that's we can see how bad things are, and they're trying to change us at our cellular levels. They're trying to change our minds with the junk that they're putting out on the cyber space, TV shows. I mean, just about everything. It's just they're attacking us in every possible way. Yeah, Nero was as nasty as Trudeau. Actually, I think Trudeau could actually top Nero if he's given a chance. Yeah, I hope we can get through it too, Maximus sees. We really, we really can't trust any of the politicians. I mean, look at what this new speaker's already done. I mean, we'll see. I don't have much faith in the American government. They've proven that they're a criminal enterprise, and that the contract that we have with them, which is the Constitution, they have broken it. So we have no obligation to give them any legitimacy or any loyalty whatsoever. Do not let your sons and daughters join this fray. Don't let them do it. Not even if they're called up. Don't let them do it. Don't let them do it. I think everything about the Putin health thing is a. I never see it go to the logical conclusion, right? And people can say, well, their body doubles and all that. Well, geez, look at Biden. Why are we worried about Putin when Biden can't even put a sentence together? And he doesn't know the difference between his wife and his daughter, probably literally. Um, Putin, I think he's just fine. I think that we're just getting more disinformation and propaganda from NATO and from the United States. I wouldn't worry about it. Putin's pretty stout, you know. I think he's my age. I think we're both the same age. Maybe a year's difference too, something like that. But we're right there. And I'm in pretty good shape. I still go on a 4 to 5 mile run walk 3 to 4 times a week. Not in the cold now that the weather's changing. I won't do that. I get bronchitis if I run in the cold air. But I can do that, and I can get down right now and do you 50, 60 push-ups. you know. So, and I'm sure he's in better shape than I am. He knows jujitsu and all that other stuff too. So he's nobody to mess around with. All right, let's see. Yeah, because I agree. None of this is by accident or incompetence. It's all planned. Some people say, no, government's incompetent. That's what's happening. No, I don't think so. I don't think. I'm not saying the government isn't incompetent, but I, I do think though that they have a plan, and look at the FBI. The FBI may have just got caught. I don't know about this thing with Mark Meadows. There's some denials right now, but there was a story that came out that Mark Meadows was actually wired when he was in the White House and he was spying for the FBI. I don't know if that's true or not. I think he's denied that, but the FBI needs to be defunded and actually taken apart, taken in, busted into pieces. It's a criminal protection racket. And BP Earthwatch says he does 5 miles a day too on his tractor. I don't have a tractor, Jesse. Sorry about that. Okay. Christopher Neal just turned 50 today. 50 was a good age. I liked 50. Actually, I liked up until about a year and a half ago. I liked all of my ages. Actually, I liked it when I got past puberty for obvious reasons. But one thing I am noticing now, though, and I think a lot of you are probably aware of this. I went to I was shipped overseas right after 9/11, and I was behind on my shot schedule and my vaccination schedule. And when I got to Fort Benning, no joke, and I think I've told you this before, they gave me, it was either 23 or 27 injections from both needles and the air guns. 23 to 27, and each one of those injections had several soups in them. I've never been the same. I've never been the same. People say, well, that's what's wrong with you. Well, I'm talking about, some neurological problems that are starting to show up. I lost my left bicep, which is one of the places they did some things to me. And that was the first sign that some things might be going on. And then some other things have happened, which I won't get into. But I'm definitely having difficulties with muscular and tendon situations, and the neurological connections with those. I am having those, which is all accumulating because I think of what happened in 2001 when they gave me all that crappy crap. The anthrax shot, they didn't tell me if they gave it to me, but I wouldn't be a bit surprised. Uh, they don't let you, at least then you couldn't opt out, or if you could legally opt out, they didn't tell me. I just got in line like a good little sheep. I was bleeding like a sieve afterwards. I was bleeding on both arms. Um, but I think they probably did give me the anthrax. Yeah, I think so. Like I said, I've had I almost immediately when I left the clinic that day, I didn't feel right. And of course, you figure, well, you just got a bunch of needles in you and you got all this stuff. You'll get better in a few days. I never really fully recovered. Never did. Big Tex asks, Roy, which version of the Bibles today would you say is the best? And I've shown you how I look at that. I like going back to the original language and using a Strong's and a Gesenius. I think I've talked about that before. So I use a Hebrew, English, Greek interlinear Bible. This is my go-to. Now I have quick reference King James version. I do. But the King James isn't the best either. There are people that will say that the King James is the only right Bible, that it's the one that God approves of. Well, I don't think so. I think I've proven that in my playlists on the Religion and Enlightenment series and on my videos here generally. Like when I showed you what do not kill means, it doesn't mean do not kill. It even means do not. It even means more than do not murder. It means do not end the life of a righteous, innocent person. Specifically, that's what it says. And you don't get that even in the Hebrew translations. You don't, because they want to have their justifications for taking out the goy. All right, That's just the fact of the matter. All right. I wonder if you can detox from all the jabs. Well, I've been trying for years. I've had a little success. If you're talking about the recent treatments that they've been giving us over the last 3 years, which I didn't take a part in, just so you know, there are people out there like Dr. McCullough, Dr. Carrie Made, who I understand lost her medical license, but there are people out there that say certain things will help, and I'm not going to tell you what those are here because that's I'm not really not qualified to do it, but I am doing similar things to the detox that they talked about. Okay. Rooster Cogburn, you're gonna get us in trouble now. Come on. All right. Yeah. Here's a good Omega Cube. The Talmud, was it written after Jesus? This gets a little tricky. There was a thing called the oral law, and Jesus basically rejected the oral law. He always quoted written scripture. Okay. He always quoted Isaiah or Genesis or one of. He always say it is written, right? So he didn't go with the oral law. Basically, if you couldn't go teach from Torah, he wouldn't do it. Okay, um, the Talmud is basically the oral law, and it was codified. It existed, but not as a codification, not as a book or a codice or a, even well, it was beyond the scrolls at that point. They did have books and things, but at any rate, the Talmuds actually, both the Babylonian and the Jerusalem Talmuds, came after Jesus by several hundred years. Yeah, prior to the formation of Islam, which is why I say the Quran is a amalgamation of both the Talmud and Christian uh, religion. Yeah, it's kind of a combination of the two. Yeah, the interlinear is what it is, not interlineal, but interlinear Bible, which is what I just showed you. Okay. All right. Let's see. So the Talmud and the Quran came after Jesus, right? However, the Talmud is just kind of an expansion in written form of the oral law, which was a, a, a the commentary on the Torah. Okay, and but it came way after Jesus. Yeah, as far as the written form of it. Yeah, yeah. Carrie Richardson, I heard that. It's the Banoons, Steve and Yana Banoon. They're I think her dad or their uncle or something like that. I'm not going to get into that. People are killed by physicians and pharmacies all the time. Pharmaceuticals mistakes happen. I'm not certain that I don't know the details on that. I'm not going to accuse Carrie of that. Um, you know, I think I'll just leave that for them to do. But let's not accuse her of killing someone, especially not deliberately. Okay, I wouldn't do that. I think that's a bad form. I still follow Carrie. There was a situation where she was having a problem with Richie from Boston. Richie was saying that she was a limited hangout and was bad and all that. Possibly, but I defended her because she did seem to put herself on the line. But there were some other aspects of that whole thing, and so I actually texted her on gave sent her a DM rather on Twitter at the time, and just asked her, and she denied the accusations that Richie had made, and I understand that. I mean, I wasn't there to judge it or to mediate it. I just was curious because I have so much respect for her. The funny thing was is that even though she continued to follow me, I could never get her to respond to me again. So I guess I scared her. I don't know. Okay, Dr. Mercola has great newsletter at Databank. You can get yeah. Useless knowledge brings up as far as these detoxes and stuff like that. Dr. Mercola, that's a good name. Thank you for bringing that up. Useless knowledge. And Mike Adams of Natural News has all that information as well. Uh, Mike and I have butt heads a couple of times, but over some things. But overall, I still have a lot of respect for him. Okay, he's certainly smarter than me. I just look at things from a military, um, law enforcement, historical perspective more than he might do. But at any rate, we're okay. Did the Lady Elder too says, did the Pope help to create Islam? There's some indications that did happen. There are some indications. I don't think it can be definitively proven. I might be wrong, but it's possible. Yeah, it's possible. Robert Winslow, he says the birth of the Jewish religion was born from the Babylonian Talmud. The Jewish religion, yes, I would agree with that. As I said, prior to the fall of the temple in 70 AD, the Israelite culture, the Israelite religion, was still pretty much there. Not all of it, because they had lost some things, but it was a lot of it was still intact. However, after the fall of the Second Temple, 70 AD, and Rome getting involved in both Judaism and the emerging Christianity, which at that time was known as the Messianic movement. The Essenes were part of that, for instance. Uh, Rome had the head rabbi uh, call together the Council of Yavna, and that was in about 90 AD, 90 to 100 AD, right in there. And they basically changed the religion. That's actually when Rabbinic Judaism was born, and then Talmudic Rabbinic Judaism came into effect over the next 200 years or so. Yeah, that's true. All right. What do I think of Steve Quayle? Big Tex. Like everybody else, he says a lot of good stuff, but I don't follow him. I just, you know, um, yeah, I don't follow Steve Quayle. I'm not saying he's good or bad. I'm just saying I just don't follow him. I'll just leave it at that. Okay. Is Q here? Sarah Carell. Let's see. Jesse says many religions were put forth to divide. Love God, love your neighbor. Yes, exactly, Jesse. Exactly. Religion means control. If you look at the etymology of religion, it means control. It means regulation or control, and it is used to divide. Absolutely, it is. Look at the world today. Love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, mind, and strength. Don't always listen to that little noise in your head that's telling you to do something that makes you feel uncomfortable. I don't care if you think it's God. You argue with him, and love your fellow man as yourself. Not just people of your own race. In the Bible, if you read it very closely in the Hebrew, it says, do not do this to your neighbor, meaning another Israelite. That's too narrow. That's definitely tribalism, xenophobia, and I do not subscribe to that, which is one reason why I have a problem with the Tanakh. I still say it was political as well as spiritual, because this is a study of mankind, of people's foibles, not just their good side, but their bad side, and also the way that the divine deals with us. And sometimes it's not what you would think. It really isn't. So thanks, Jesse. Uh, Now I got to tell you, I didn't really think we'd be doing much religion stuff tonight. Like I said, I wanted to talk about the situation in Israel and Ukraine, and then of course this new speaker that's apparently backpedaling on some things already. We'll watch it and see. Um, you know, the Biden now still talking about taking your firearms away from you. Um, he said the other day, nobody needs an AR-15 that holds 30 rounds in the chamber. What? 30 rounds? I don't think he's ever shot a weapon. But that's another thing. I don't think anybody should be president of the United States if they haven't been in the military. That's just my own feeling about it. But anyway, uh, so yeah, he said 30 rounds in the chamber. He probably meant the magazine, but that just shows how disconnected he is. So he wants to ban things that he doesn't even understand. And now at this situation, of course, they Israel
I thought that they had, all the citizens carried weapons. Apparently that changed a few years ago, probably because Bibi was concerned about him being overthrown. So they went and confiscated the weapons, I guess, at some point. But at any rate, now, of course, because of what happened on October 7th with Hamas coming over there and doing the horrible murder and terrorism that they did, and yes, that's what it was. They're not freedom fighters when you do that kind of stuff. I'm sorry, I don't care. You know, it's like the poor. I better not go too deep in that. All the bottom line is that now they're giving the Israelis guns back, even even M4s and AR-15s and stuff like that. So, and here Biden, as he's brought all these invaders into our country, we have criminals doing this stuff like this thing in Maine. Now, Maine, I understand, is a constitutional carry state. That's my understanding. I might not have that exactly right, but there should have been somebody with a weapon to respond to this. See how important it is? A right is a responsibility. I've said that before. A right is a responsibility. In other words, you have to actually do it so that you have the ability to respond. That's what responsibility is, ability to respond. So a right is a responsibility and ability to respond. So here we go again. And this is a never ending drumbeat with these people. I'll tell you what, if everybody was armed, I mean, you might have a few hotheads that do something. We've seen some road rage incidents and stuff like that. But stuff like what happened in Maine, he may have gotten off a couple of rounds before he got turned into Swiss cheese. And same with all the other shootings, whether they're the ones in Chicago, with the gangs, or like the shooting that happened in Maine, or any number of other things. The answer is responsibility in the Second Amendment, arming everybody. It's a polite society. And Biden, you're not polite. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, the Boston Marathon. BP Earthwatch, that's when I got into a lot of trouble, right? You might remember that. I did my analysis of the Boston Marathon and what happened there. I'm still not convinced that the Zarnov brothers had anything to do with it. As a matter of fact, I know they didn't. Uh, they were framed, and it was done by nefarious government services. All right, let's say. Why did they cut his throat in the boat? Uh, I didn't know they had done that. I know they shot him up. Um, I do remember something happened like that. I don't remember the details. That's been quite a while ago. But I guess somebody there with a camera kept them from actually killing him, right? There was some news people there or something. There was somebody there that they didn't have control over, so they couldn't quite do him in. Yeah, Rooster Cogburn. Yeah, saying the same thing. They tried killing him in the boat, and like I said, as I recall, there was somebody there with a camera, and they knew they couldn't do him in right then. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the Evolda. Another thing. Yeah, cops stand down and let that. All this stuff is suspect. Suspect. Yeah, that's right. They claimed they were doing a tracheotomy. Now I remember. Yeah. Uh huh. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Right. Uh huh. Yeah. I don't believe a thing. I mean, look what happened in Waterton. They came out there with militarized police, and they entered homes without warrants and all. I mean, it was a cluster and a total violation of everything that our country stands for. The way they handled that. Yeah. Yeah, dereliction of duty in old. I agree. YouTube is spanning you from telling me what you want to say. Well, that doesn't surprise me. I mean, my channel is both here and on X. Or I mean, I don't care about the numbers. I noticed that my numbers went way down, and they're kind of climbing up slowly now on YouTube. On X, on Twitter, I've been at 23,000 followers, or 21,000, something like that, for years. It's never gone up, even though I have all these people. I'll see it going, so and so followed you, so and so followed you, and even when Twitter does their or X does their purging, I don't. I stay right around 23, so they're definitely keeping a lid on my stuff. There's no doubt about it. I'm not prepared to talk about Amos today, but I know what you're talking about. Will there be a draft in the USA? Well, that's another thing that happened in Ukraine. They want to draft women now, and I've been warning about this. They want to destroy the white Christian Ukrainians. I've been I've been saying that. That's one of the major objectives of this whole thing. If you draft your women, and the United States wants to do that too, they've been trying for a while, and apparently they're going to get it done. If you draft your women, your country doesn't deserve to be defended any longer. Let me say that again. If they draft your women, if they conscript your women, your country no longer deserves to be defended. I'm talking about the government. It doesn't deserve to be defended anymore. Don't take part and let it be destroyed. All right? Okay, let's see here. Because frankly, I would go along with that. I'd say pushing it. If it becomes something that they push, I'm not going to repeat what he said here or she. Epicus 2.0. But I agree. If it becomes something that they're pushing like they have been, yeah, they don't deserve to be defended. Which is also why Israel is a debauched, debased, disgusting nation. It is not a spiritual nation. And all these people say, "Oh, I'm got to be careful here." I heard one person I have some respect for, but this person was really coming down on the Palestinians. And here's basically what this person said. These are the people of the Lord God Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and was very boisterous in saying that Israel is God's chosen people and all this stuff, and then said, and we've got to basically, I'm paraphrasing, we've got to do something about that cesspool that's Gaza. Now this person says they honor God. I've never heard this person say that they're a Christian. But that venom that person spouted told me all I needed to know, because that person put their biases and their bloodlust, which they claim they didn't have, before their reason and their love of mankind, despite everything else that person does. Yeah, I've never liked Shapiro. I have some family members that like him because he does say a lot of good stuff, but he doesn't know his Torah. He's not. I doubt that he's a practicing. He's probably, if he's anything, he's probably Reformed Jew, would be my guess. That I'm not going to find fault with that one way or the other, but he doesn't know his scriptures, and if he does, he bends them for his own purposes. WF. Oh, hi, Walter. No, I don't know Jesse Kelly. I don't think I've ever heard of him. Yeah, I'm not going to comment on Ben Shapiro anymore. But yeah, like I said, it's kind of like, I know what Israeli News Live does, and I have a lot of respect for those folks, but I don't follow them. The same thing with Ben Shapiro. I don't follow him. Um, I'm aware of a lot of these folks, but I'm pretty specific about where I get my information. I'm not saying that I don't have a breadth and depth of it, but a lot of these people that seem um, on the right track, they have an agenda. I'm just not worth. I'm not anxious to help along, so I don't. Yeah, big Tex. I turned you on to Monograph. Yeah, Monty's quite a guy. He's gone through a lot of crap too. A lot of people accusing him. He was an entertainer, and he put together some movies with an adult lady that people tried to say he was doing nasty stuff. And what he was, it was a drama of the New World Order, and they tried to they still give him trouble over it. No sipping on American honey. Okay, well, how did you know? So, like I said, I wasn't planning on doing a real religious, spiritual presentation tonight, as you can tell. So I did pour myself some scotch. This is Dalmore 12. Dalmore 12. Uh, and it's been sitting. I took a little tiny, I just touched it to my lips here a few minutes before I started just to see if it had sat long enough. Because I like to, like I said, 1 year, when you pour it, you let it sit for 1 year for every year it's old. So if it's 12 years old, you let it sit like this for 12 minutes. So if you all have a drink, join me. Yeah, Monty's not a lightweight, Christine, that's for sure. I tell you what, Caveman Luck, talking about addressing the Book of Amos, we might do that sometime in the future. Okay, I don't really want to do it now. I really wanted to do this as kind of like a more uh, general discussion. We've had a little bit of spiritual, religious stuff, but I also wanted to get into the current politics and military situation. Uh, Look at Trump's lawyers. They're all saying that they're backing out. They're all, the ones that helped him through the election and all that. I don't want to mention their names. I just, they're all recanting now, and they're all blaming each other and all this stuff. I mean, the government is wicked, but I think we were getting a lot of bad information from the Trump group too. I won't talk too much about that, but that doesn't mean that I excuse what the government's doing with their pretense at justice, because it's not. All right. No, I'm glad you asked that. Do the Love J Buck ask, was the creation of Israel fulfillment of biblical prophecy? I guess you could say that God allows the wicked to do things and then he uses it. But God did not directly create the modern state of Israel. It was done by very wicked, evil, designing men, primarily in London and in New York. You've heard the name Rothschild. You've heard the Balfour Declaration. Uh, and basically, what it was an ethnic cleansing when the Jews went in there and did what they did to the Palestinians. And the excuse was, God gave it to us. Well, the God that gave it to them at that point was Lord Rothschild and the Balfour Declaration. That's who they were worshiping when they did that. And they'll say, well, no, God did all this. He put it all together and then it just happened that way. Well, if that were the case, which I pointed out ad infinitum now, Israel would be living Torah as a nation, and it is not. And the Torah Jews on X and the Torah Judaism people will explain all that. And I put up a video the other day about some of that. No, and I will just say it categorically. For evangelical Christians and the Christian world in general to support the state of Israel because they think God had something to do with it, that God did that, they're deceived and they're going to cause a lot of destruction because of it. A lot. Yeah, I kind of like that, Lisa. And this is kind of what the Orthodox Jews will say that stand against Israel. Lisa D. Gray says, "Israel are God's people, not a place." My understanding. Well, that's how the Orthodox Jews that I'm talking about look at it. Okay. As a matter of fact, they're pretty adamant on that. They're not supposed to even go to, to Jerusalem, except the holy place is fine. Go and take part in the holy place, but they're not supposed to dwell there. All right. Well, let's see. How long have we been going here? Wow, an hour and 20 minutes. Oh my gosh. Man, time flies when you're having fun. Okay. Like I said, I kind of wanted to be more on the current world situation tonight. I think we've touched on that a little bit, but there are enemy cells everywhere in the United States now. I would not even doubt that this thing in Maine had something to do with it. This is happening now. Our government has dropped all the things that they are required to do to ensure our safety and security, and of course they've gone against the Constitution wholesale. So this government is aiding and abetting your destruction. So this is going to kick off if this thing in the Middle East does not get resolved in some fashion pretty soon. It's going to explode and it's going to spill over, and then these cells that are here and people that are here and just want to take part in the mayhem, it's going to get bad. So keep your situational awareness on high, eyes on the horizon, ears to the ground. You know, I used to say that, I still do. Prep, pray, stay out of the way. You got to know that what you see happening in Ukraine, in in Western Europe, as far as what they're doing to the original people of those countries, you know, and what's happening in Israel and Gaza right now. Uh, this stuff could really expand and get way out of control. So you gotta keep your eyes on the ball. Don't trust anybody but your closest friends and relatives. And even there, I've seen betrayal. Even there. This is the age of deceit and betrayal. And it's a pandemic. All right. I think we'll leave it at that. Thanks for coming, everybody. This was kind of impromptu, but I did want to just touch on a few of those things. I'll probably think, oh, later I'll probably think, oh, I should have said this and I should have said that. But we'll have a chance to cover it again later. So thanks for coming, and here's to you all. And have a good night. If I don't see you before the weekend, have a nice weekend.